Hello, gorgeous people out there. Welcome to Rustle Podcast Season 2. I Can, I Do. I am Dr. Sonika Sethi, an academician and an author, and I'll be your host for today. Friends, this season of the Rustle Podcast is all about inspiring individuals who have turned their passion and profession into purpose. Today, we have a very special guest for you, someone who has made a mark in the world of homeopathy and medicine, Dr. Mukesh Batra, founder of Dr. Batra's Clinics and regarded as pioneer of modern homeopathy in India. So let me give you a brief introduction of our guest today. To all the listeners out there of our podcast, Padam Shri Dr. Mukesh Batra is the founder and chairman of Dr. Batra's Healthcare, the world's largest chain of over, let me take a breath, over 225 homeopathy clinics in 6 countries of the world. His foundation helps the underprivileged with free homeopathy treatment at over 175 clinics and offers scholarships to students in 10 of India's leading homeopathy colleges. Dr. Batra has authored 10 best selling books on homeopathy and let me tell you something great. A play, Jeena Isi Ka Naam Hai, based on his life, was produced by Yatri Productions and it ran to full houses in Delhi and Mumbai. But before we dive into our conversation today, let me give you a quick recap about Russell Group. The Russell Group has been founded by philanthropist, entrepreneur, and writer Rahul Suri. Russell Group has been an engaging platform for youth interaction, literature, and thought leadership, which is now expanding its impact through the Russell Podcast. All right, now we are back into our podcast and to our guest of the day. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Batra.
Thank you, Sonika, and thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. And thank you, Rahul, for this opportunity as well.
So, Dr. Batra, my first question to you. In today's age of allopathy and instant results, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in convincing people about the efficacy of homeopathy? And do you think there's a growing acceptance of homeopathy as a complementary therapy alongside mainstream homeopathy, mainstream medicine? And if yes, what steps do you think need to be taken on the level of society as well as on the level of government to foster this integration? So
So
over to
thank you,
you, Doctor.
Sonika. Thank you, Sonika. Now, that's like three very, very long questions with, I'm sure they're going to be very long answers as well. But let me try to,
So if you want, I can break it into subparts and then come back to you again.
No, I'll answer them in subparts, no issues. So the first question was really about the instant results. So, I just want to
Yeah.
mention that this is actually a myth and a misconception because people tend to think that homeopathy is slow, which actually it is not, because most of the people who come for homeopathy come for it for chronic ailments, which are, and it's kind of, it also treats from the root. So which is why that it takes some time, to treat and to cure. But if you actually talk about acute problems like a cold or a cough or a minor kind of viral infection or a stomach upset, it actually kind of heals very, very fast, very quickly, even faster than antibiotics, and it leaves no side effects. So actually
Okay.
you get back to work much faster. So I think that's really a misconception. But having said that, also the second misconception is that is it a challenge? No, it's not a challenge. It's not a challenge because people today are actually aware. And I just want to mention that today, a lot of young people today are actually turning to homeopathy, all over India and also all over the world, because they are becoming more and more aware of the side effects of chemical medicine. They're getting more and more aware of what is called iatrogenic disorders, which are kind of diseases, which are drug-induced diseases. And they know that sometimes, it is the cure is worse than the disease. So not always. I'm saying it has its merits as well. I'm not saying that that's not good, but in a lot of cases, it kind of affects the quality of your life. Well, actually, any kind of healing system should actually give you what is called HRQL. It should actually improve the quality of living. That's what all medicines are supposed to do. So I think there's a lot of awareness for it. And I think, things like the internet and, the kind of explosion that we have of media and Dr. WhatsApp and Dr. Google all over, there's so much of awareness of this, all over that today, I think people are more aware, young people as well. So I don't think I don't think that's really a problem today. And Also, having said that, in spite of all this, homeopathy is the fastest growing system of medicine in the world. According to World Health Organization, it is the youngest and is the second largest system of medicine today. So I think that should put all kinds of things to rest. Also, there was a recent IMRB study that was done in the metros, and it found that 59% of people have turned from allopathy to homeopathy in the big metros,
Oh,
and
that's wonderful.
77% of believe that it gave very good long term results and it was safer. So there's enough research done to actually disprove this hypothesis that young people don't turn to homeopathy, and that homeopathy does not give instant reliefs, cures or whatever results, and that's why people don't turn to homeopathy. And so that's not true
Okay.
at all. So I hope I put your first part of the question out of the window completely. Hopefully
Yes,
thrown it
of
out.
course. No, I'm
That's number
totally
one.
convinced now that more and more people are turning towards homeopathy, and the efficacy can also be ruled out that it is quick and effective. So, coming to the final part
So
of our question.
So there are still two challenges there, which I haven't mentioned. So one of them, of course, is the placebo effect. People think that because it's given in very, very minute doses, which you cannot determine clinically.
True.
So that's why there's a problem. And but now that's also been, kind of a lot of research has been done, and it's been disproved that actually even in small doses, it can act very, very well. And they're therapeutic doses. So that's also something which is now kind of, been overcome. And the second thing is there is a need to do much more clinical trials and double-blind trials in homeopathy. There is already, I mean, there are already more than 300, 600 of them all over the place for a lot of diseases, but a lot more needs to be done. So I think once this is done, then I think there will be a much greater awareness among the medical world to actually include it as part of integrated medicine. Uh, Coming to your question on integrated medicine and what steps should be taken, the second part of your question
Yes.
is I think we've done whatever we could have done, like a little bit at Dr. Batra's, and I can just give you some examples to explain that so that you appreciate, what can be done. So, keeping, integrating homeopathy into integrated medicine and into modern medicine, for example, or the current system of medicine, it requires, of course, medical acceptance, which is very important because the medical doctors have to accept it as a system of medicine that will work as a complementary system of medicine. And second thing is it also needs, like I said, some kind of a government approval. I mean, it has a government approval, but I mean, it needs some kind of government push to make that happen. So once it happens in
Mm.
government hospitals, and some of it is already happening, but if it reaches the scale and the mass that it needs to, then private hospitals will also start doing it. So I think there is a way forward, but it's very slow and far too little. And one can step up the pedal and actually make it happen more, faster and better. So this is, one part. Just to give you some examples of what we've done at Dr. Batra's as far as integrated medicine is concerned. So I'll just give you a few very quick examples. So number one is that for the last 16 years, we've been a part of Kim's Hospital, which is a well-known hospital in Bahrain, and we have half a
Oh,
floor of Dr. Batra's homeopathy. So it's a multi-specialty hospital, and we are 16 years. Dr. Batra's clinic is there, so it's like a clinic and a hospital model, which is working very well for us for the last 16 years. So I'm just giving an example that it can actually work even over a long-term period of time in an integrated manner. The other examples I can give you also are, one of the top bariatric surgeons in Bombay for 5 years. They came to us and they said that, your our patients, when they undergo surgery, they lose weight, but then they suffer from anxiety and depression because they're worried will the weight come back again, and there are lots of lifestyle changes that need to be made. So we then ran a 5-year clinic in that hospital, in that kind of center, which kind of dealt with anxiety and depression of post surgical cases. So, and
okay.
there also we got very good results. Similarly, there was one of my earlier patients came to me when I was a kid, started a very good orthodontic practice in Dubai. So she said, why don't we come and join up homeopathy over there? So we had a clinic and clinic model over there because we realized then that people who come for teeth disorders, young kids, a lot of them were mouth breathers and they had adenoids, and obviously parents
Yes.
didn't want them to get operated, and because of that their teeth were got misaligned. So to
Misaligned.
prevent that,
True.
we had a Dr. Batra's clinic over there, and we actually were able to treat, children for the adenoids without surgery, so that then the kind of surgical procedures actually came down, and they didn't have to wait so long. So I've just given you some examples. Similarly, in another country, in Greece, in Athens, we had tied up with an infertility clinic, and they were
Okay.
doing one of the largest in the world, and they were doing, IVFs and things like that. And we said we can do something in homeopathy because, we don't, if you don't have to go through the cycles, and a lot of cases, for example, are actually because of male infertility, which people don't even look at. So you've got low sperm count and you have, less motility, and people don't even look at that part of it. And homeopathy has very,
Right.
very good cures and treatments for that. So you can take care of 50% of the problem by treating the male and not really the female. Female, of course, has got
True.
lots of other issues that come up as well,
Again,
PCODs and a lot of other
yeah.
things. So some of them can be treated with homeopathy, some of them can't. So we could actually, actually make sure that people who could not conceive then could actually conceive with homeopathy treatment. And in a very simple and, so I'm just giving you these examples that all over the world we've actually done this. And I think we should have many more of this in India as well.
Wonderful, Dr. Batra. What I gather from all the inputs that you have shared with us is that there needs to be a push at the government level. The government has to step up on the pedal, and a lot of acceptance has to be built on the level of our medicinal practitioners, so that there could be a cohabitation between diverse medicinal practices. Right? I hope I'm correct.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. So, Dr. Batra, on a very personal note, I have been doing some background check, and I have come to know that your mother was an allopathic doctor and your father was a homeopathic doctor. So, did you witness some kind of a family squabble in your home about what sort of practice should be adopted? And how did you actually land up in homeopathy instead of allopathy?
So, Sonika, I'm glad that that's the only thing that you found out about me, and nothing else. So, thank you very much for that.
Oh,
That
you.
is true, actually. Actually, that is true, actually. No, no, everything else would have been good as well. Don't worry. I actually live a very good life.
I'll bring
So,
up some other
yeah.
points also.
But coming to my mother, she was among the first allopathic doctors from Lady Harding, in
Oh,
the late 40, just after independence. So she was an allopathic doctor. She was also medical director of deputy medical director of UP, the undivided Uttar Pradesh. And so she
yeah,
was in charge of all the healthcare services there. My father was the principal of the homeopathy college in Lucknow, and he had also done his kind of course from the Royal Homeopathic London Hospital from London. So when they got
right.
married, and of course I was born within 1 year of their marriage. So when they got married, uh, I'm sure that there must have been quite a lot of controversies about allopathy versus homeopathy, but ultimately, I think in the long run, my father won because ultimately my mother then took to a kind of a charitable clinic where she was administration in charge and she didn't really practice, and she also believed in homeopathy. So ultimately, she also started practicing homeopathy because she kind of converted from being a MBBS doctor into a homeopathic doctor. And so then there was good cohabitation and there was no problem whatsoever. But in the beginning, I'm
So,
sure that there would have been something like that, and that's why jokingly I always say that I'm the product of an allopath and a homeopath. So I was actually born as a result of mixopathy. Because I have both in my blood and in my system.
so you are divided to the vein in actual words, if we want to put it like this. You are divided to the vein.
Absolutely.
Half of your blood runs allopathy, and half of your blood runs homeopathy in your veins, right? So you're divided to the vein.
I'm saying vein, artery, whatever you call it, everything. I mean, everything that circulates was like that, but now it's 100% homeopathy. So
All right. Okay, coming back to our next question. Dr. Batra, you have done a lot of spade work before you established yourself as an international brand. So now Dr. Batra's has grown into an international brand, but there must have been some challenging moments while you were establishing yourself as a brand name. So tell us, what were those challenges, a couple of them, and what were the key factors that helped you in scaling up the business?
So I think challenges were many. I think challenges are like a day of life. It's, when you are they say that you have a first mover advantage, but I always say that you have a first mover disadvantage. In management, they say that you have a first mover advantage. I always say that you have a first mover disadvantage because you make all the mistakes and you pay the price for it. And then other people just move in because they already have a ready-made kind of a platform.
I'm the
So
ladder. Yeah.
I think I am one of those people who actually had the first mover disadvantage wherever I went. It was not easy at all. There were lots of challenges. I'll just give you one example of my first clinic, international clinic I set up in Mauritius in 1996. And when I went over there and the clinic was ready, I had a partner over there, local partner. And when I went over there, somebody told me, why don't you meet the vice president and, he'll be happy to inaugurate your clinic. So I spoke to him on the phone. I said, sir, can you inaugurate my clinic tomorrow? And he said, yeah, perfect. Yeah, come and meet me tomorrow. But before I, can accept. And when I went to meet him, I told him that, I'm opening a clinic. And I remember his words even till today. God bless his soul, he's passed away. He said, I'm a bar at law and I'm a Queen's Counsel. And, what the hell do you think? How can I'll put you behind bars because homeopathy is not legalized in my country. And I've already
Oh
put some
my God.
Ayurvedic doctor behind bars because he tried to do the same thing what you're doing. And my clinic was
Oh.
absolutely ready and it had to be, inaugurated the next day. And then luckily I found something, not right with him. And I said, I can treat you for it. And he kind of said, yes, okay, let me try. And then we became very good friends. And, that friendship lasted for a long time. I mean, he actually came to my house in Mumbai, visited me, and we kept that relationship for a long time. But from there, then I started, I had to go every maybe 2 weeks, every week, fly to Mauritius, sit before the health minister, sit outside for
Mm.
4 hours. And ultimately, then, the prime minister kind of passed a law 6 months later saying that homeopathy is now legalized. And that's when I could actually open my first clinic over there. So that's just an example of the challenges that you face. Any country that you go, there are always challenges. In India also there are challenges because health is a state subject. Every state has got its own regulations, rules. So it's not very easy. बट कदम चूम लेती है मंजिल आकर कदम चूम लेती है मंजिल आकर अगर राही खुद अपनी हिम्मत ना हारे so just लगे रहो मुन्ना भाई is what I say just have perseverance keep at it and you will succeed. That's all. I think a lot of us just give up too easily. So that is something that
Yeah.
I've always done in my life. I've never given up, so easily. I've kept trying till the end, and we've always succeeded. You just have to, sometimes you just have to wear other people off, you know, and get them to your point of view, and that's it. That's it. So it always works, but you have to be patient and you have to be persistent. You have to believe in yourself. That's very important. I'm saying if you don't have belief in yourself, which I always had, because I mean, then I would give up easily. So you don't give up very easily. You keep trying, and I think that happens all over the world. I'm saying that happened with a lot of my other clinics as well. Wherever I started, there were challenges. Like I said, it happened in every new place that I went. I mean, I remember that my first clinic in India was in Bangalore, and I had a very good practice by that time. By that time, I had established myself. I'd moved from earning 150 rupees a month to having a very decent, good practice, private practice, and I was very famous in Bombay, pretty famous. And I remember when I went to Bangalore and I started my practice there. You know what question people would ask me? They would say,
Mm.
मुंबई में तो बॉम्बे में तो दैट मीन्स कॉल्ड बॉम्बे बॉम्बे में तो आपने किसी को ठीक किया होगा पर बैंगलोर में किसको ठीक किया है so it makes no difference whether you treated 1,000 patients or 100,000 patients but in my city what have you done that's how it is. And so healthcare is very agnostic. It's something which is you believe only in yourself. I mean, you got to I always say this as a joke, but it's an interesting concept since you asked me that question, that we always say that a film star is as good or as bad as his last movie. We say
Last
that
movie.
God sits in the box office every Friday. If your film does
Yeah.
well on a Friday, your costs go up, you do very well. If your film bombs, then again you get into a problem. I say that in medicine, for a doctor, he's as good or as bad as his present patient, not even the last patient. So, the
True.
patient doesn't care a damn whether you treated 100,000 people or not. What can you do for me? I'm saying, are you able to cure me or not? Can you treat me or not? Do you have the expertise and the experience to make me all right? That's what I'm worried about. So every city that I went to, whether I went to, Baroda, whether I went to Delhi, after that I expanded my businesses everywhere and my clinics everywhere, my profession everywhere. I had the same question. People said, okay, you may know people and you may do very well in Bangalore and you treated, but and also Mumbai. What about Baroda? And then what about Delhi? So unless you
Yeah.
established a kind of a brand ambassador of your patients who actually got all right, and who then by word of mouth created a good word of mouth for you, it was very difficult, very challenging. So I think there are many challenges like this, and I'm just giving you a very few examples. It was universal all across. Now, how did I build the brand and what did I do? Just a few points I'd like to make, to answer that second part of your question. The first
Yeah.
thing I think is very, very important was that I actually had a vision for technology. So it was very important that you because technology gives you scale. And
True.
I started the world's first computerized clinic, uh, perhaps everywhere, not just in homeopathy, but even otherwise. So 1982, the computers had just come through Rajiv Gandhi's era to India, and I actually bought a computer for 1.5 lakhs, which I borrowed money for it because I didn't have the money. So I borrowed money from a bank. They kind of sponsored it. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
it was a huge green kind of a thing. I used to call it the green monster. And every time there was a dot matrix, printer, we had to wear
Right.
glasses so that eyes didn't get bad, looking at the screen. Those were the days. Now we're looking at mobile phones and it's also easy. So it cost me 1.5 lakh to do that. And I had a dot matrix printer. I remember every time I took out a prescription, the whole building shook, it went tuck, 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 tuck. So because there was such a huge printer, it occupied so much of space. But I believed in myself. I said, no, I must use technology. I created a software, which is a very small,
Mm-hmm.
simple software, D-based software. And I created perhaps the first electronic case history record. What Modi ji is today talking about digital India was actually created
True.
by me in the healthcare space in 1982. And we created the
Wow.
world's first software, and then people came from all over to see it. Now that got me uh, a lot of mileage, a lot of
Yes.
media eyeballs, and people actually welcomed it, very very well as something which was great. But because I did that, and people actually criticized me a lot at that time, because the salary of a good doctor that time was 1,500, MD doctor I'm talking about, 15,000 rupees. And they said, with the amount of money that you spent, 1.5 lakhs, you could have hired
Hmm.
10 MD doctors and they could have worked for you. I mean, they said you could have hired so many chartered accountants because there was a similar, and grown your business. But I said, no, I don't care. This is what I want and this is what I will do. So having done that, it then allowed me to then build that software on a much larger base and then get
Mm-hmm.
connectivity among all my clinics. So because of this, then there's a real time connectivity. I don't need to visit any clinic. I can, on my mobile phone and all my top, CEO's mobile phones, CXO's mobile phone, we can just press a button and we know exactly what's happening all over the world. And on 31st of March, we press a button and our balance sheets are closed because you get
All
real
right.
time, whether it's a dollar, pound, rupee, baht, whatever income that you have from all the countries that you have coming in, you just press the button and you close it. Everything is live. So having built that over a period of time, it then allows you scale, which otherwise, as in a personal capacity, you can't just keep running to 100 clinics or 200 clinics. It's not easy to do. So I think the first thing was to actually build scale through technology. The second thing was then to make standardized systems, because how do you make sure that all your doctors say maybe Dr. Batra?
Mm.
How can you inspire them and how can you train them? How can that happen? So actually making a kind of very strong process and systems which are foolproof, and and testing them through technology and testing them over a period of time, what they call POC, have a proof of concept, is what then allows
Mm.
you to then scale up and standardize it. So standardizing kind of treatment, standardizing training, standardizing medicines, because they're not allowed to buy medicines except from a standard source, which we have, like a tie-up
So,
with a Swiss company, things like that. So the quality of medicine is the same, everywhere. So having made these kind of processes and systems, and also then having, at age 60, I was one of the oldest students in Harvard. My son sent me to Harvard and said, now you go in there and do a course in medical excellence. And I really didn't understand a thing to start with.
excellent.
And when I came back, I had to, took me 10 years to actually, put those things. So one of the things that Harvard taught me was, they said, today there are no scientific, acceptable, objective medical outcomes in medicine. So for 10
Okay.
years I worked on it, and I worked with scientists, I worked with the data, people. I worked with doctors, I worked with homeopaths, I worked with MD doctors, and we made our own protocols. So today, for the kind of disease that we treat, we actually have now scientific protocols which are measurable, so that a patient can actually see whether he or she is getting better or not, you know and then that report is then shared with
Okay.
patients. So transparency of treatment and actually making these protocols was very very important, and it's taken almost 10 years to do it. So, and we haven't done it for all the diseases, but we've done it for most of the diseases that we treat. So this was the other thing, that building process and system, because then that allows you scale as well. Otherwise
Mm-hmm.
you can't do it, and that was really a long process. The other, of course, is extensive training, because a doctor is I mean, your patient is as good or as bad, like a carpenter is as good or as bad as the tools that he has. So your clinics are as good or as bad as your doctors, the quality of your doctors. So how good are they?
True.
So they're chosen from the top, thing. But then how do you train them? Like when I did
Train.
my medicine, whatever, God knows how many, 50 years ago, I passed out as a doctor. And when I did my course there, I never learned COVID. I never learned bird flu. I never learned chikungunya, and it all happened. So in medicine, you have to have a lot of knowledge bank. It's very important. So again, we've used technology to create what is called a KM portal, a knowledge management portal. So all cases which
Okay.
are cured, treated, with the medicines, whatever, are put into that knowledge portal. Doctors can go there, they can share knowledge. So sharing knowledge and developing on that knowledge and growing that knowledge. And today, actually, we're using artificial intelligence. So artificial actually tells me, and we are also using machine learning. So today I've got a
Mm.
patient base of say, 15 lakh patients, 1.5 million patients. So I can actually say that, okay, this patient of psoriasis had this particular personality, and then this particular medicine was given, and this worked on 10,000 patients. And therefore, when I get the 10,000 and first patient, maybe that's the first medicine that I try. So, So there's a lot of kind of back end work, that keeps that gets done over here. And finally, I think the last thing is, jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai. That's the marketing kind of jargon which everybody says, which is
Yes.
actually true, because so the last thing is also visibility. So now, when you said we are in 6 countries, now we are in 9 countries. So when you go anywhere and then you see a Dr.
Okay.
Batra's board, and which is why people
Hmm.
think that we are in Delhi, which we are not. We have got 18 branches in Delhi, we've got 18 branches in Bombay. They are the same number of branches. But
Wow.
Delhi, but Delhi, we are visible. So Delhi, we are on the high street, we are on JB Tito Marg, we are on every, Noida, whatever you just name it, Gurgaon. In Mumbai, because of the prices and because of the small places that we are not as visible as what we are in Delhi. So people
True.
don't think of us as being Bombay based; they think of us being Delhi based, and the
Delhi
Batra
based.
surname doesn't help very much. So really, these are, I think, some of the kind of things that we go through, and how we've kind of scaled it up and managed to make it very efficient. And really, what is most important for me and my passion is that I actually sit with all my doctors. Today, we have about 350 full-time doctors. I sit with
Wow.
them every week, once a week, and I review their work. And I actually see how many patients are getting better and how many patients are not getting better. And patients who are not getting better or getting worse, because a very small percentage, do that as well. I mean, they treatment doesn't
Hmm.
work for them, and there are a lot of external factors as well, for in treatment today, because it's a lifestyle problem today. So even all of that helps. So I find that I actually sit with those cases and actually question my doctors, and then make sure that senior doctors actually review the cases, and make sure that ultimately every patient who comes to Dr. Batas must benefit and must, be able to change his life or her life. And that's really the passion with which we work. So the philosophy of patient first, putting it across board to everybody right at the grassroots level, is a challenge, but I think to a large extent we've done it.
All right, Dr. Batra, if I were to sum up all the key points, the thing that comes out is, or what I can highlight is that as a medical practitioner, you don't only need to have the knowledge system, but you also have to be a visionary. You have to evolve yourself. You have to continuously adapt to your circumstances. So, all these things have to be done on a very large scale. And congratulations, kudos to you for having overcome all the obstacles and challenges that you faced. And if I were to summarize your challenges and the obstacles that you overcame, I can only recite this couplet कि कौन कहता है कि आसमान में छेद नहीं होता, एक पत्थर तो तबीयत से उछालो यारो. So all that
Wow.
you did was कि आपने तबीयत से एक पत्थर उछाला, and the result is in front of all of us.
Correct.
Congratulations to you.
And then I ducked to make sure it didn't fall on my head. मैंने कहा पत्थर उछाला भी, और फिर मैं झुक
हाँ,
गया,
उछालो,
to
but
make sure
अपने
that
सिर पे नहीं गिरना चाहिए ना.
to make sure that it didn't fall on my head. So that is also a very important part, I think. But
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yes, moving on to our next question, Dr. Batra. Now, we all know that you are a highly professional individual, but uh, what is Dr. Batra like a man, like a family man? Because you run such a large chain of clinics. You just mentioned that you've moved from 6 to 9 countries all over the world with almost 225 clinics running in your name. And you have to maintain that kind of reputation. You said that you hold a conference with all your doctors every week. So all this is very demanding. How do you balance your professional and personal life over the years? How has it been? Does your family take it really as an offense, or as a negative thing about you, that you are highly professional and you don't devote time to the family, or do you manage to balance all that?
So this is like now the 90-hour question that got so much of controversy, in the media,
I told you you should be
by
prepared for my
by by one of the CXOs.
quiz.
So, but yeah, it's very valid. So I think the first thing is that I've always had support of my family. That's very important, because without the support of your family, you really can't do anything. And
Right.
my kids are also like my elder son is also a doctor, so he's been 25 years in the business. He's the MD of the company. He's a trachologist from London, also homeopath, qualified from a university, 5.5 year course. So I think when you have that kind of family background, you actually, my wife also is a doctor. So I think everybody knows then what to expect from this guy, because everybody's in
Hmm.
the same system, if I may use that word. So it's not very difficult. That's number one. Number two, having said that, also I think I've always prioritized my family and my personal life. And I always believe that, people who say that, you don't have time to do something, They are people who don't have the inclination. Where there's a will, there is a way. So if you want
Okay.
to do something, you can do anything, whatever you want. That's not true. I'm saying, I mean, I have 25-hour days, and I managed to do 25 hours. Yeah, I have 25 hours a day. I'm saying I mean, you're an author, so I can just tell you I've written 5 international books. I'm publishing one book every year with an international publisher. You know how difficult that is? I published my biography
Definitely.
with HarperCollins. I published books with Bloomsbury. I've now signed a contract with them, with USA, with UK, with India, to write my next book
Oh,
on spirituality, which is going to come out next year. So I'm saying, how do you
wonderful.
do it? It's and then I follow all my passions as well. So I think the basic thing is that you have to have a will. If you have a will and you actually believe in it, you make sure that it happens. There's no excuse. I mean, there's no excuse for work not done. It's just that you don't want to do
Yes.
it, which is why you don't do it. That's what I believe. So having said that, uh, I must just tell you this, that I reached a stage in my life where I became, very, I would say, wanted in that sense, as a good professional. I had no appointments free for 1 year. So if you had to see me as a doctor, you had to come in 2026 to get an appointment. In spite of all of that, in spite of all of that, and I was the first doctors in Mumbai and maybe in India who actually kept office hours. So I would work from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock, because when my children
Okay.
were growing, I made sure that at 6 o'clock, I shut my clinic. At 7 o'clock, I'm home. I have my dinner with them. I chat with them, and I followed that as a rule. And people actually told me, they said, I'm telling you honestly, in a podcast, so many of my friends and my relatives, they said, "आप तो पागल हो, दुनिया आपके पीछे
Hmm.
भाग रही है, and you are, just not seeing it. And this is the time when you should really work hard and encash whatever you have, your goodwill. You're not doing it. You're being stupid that you're shutting your clinic at 6 o'clock when patients are. I mean, earlier I used to see patients even at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning. So they said, but from the time my son was born, I decided that I cannot do that. So that's one part that I've done. The second thing I always believed in, as a philosophy, that I've never believed in buying things. I've always believed in buying experiences. And I believe experiences are kind of, things which actually grow on you, which grow on families. So no matter how busy I was, I made sure that I took my family to one holiday in India and one holiday abroad. Now, maybe the holiday abroad was combined with my work, in the sense I would lecture in, say, California or Santa Monica. I would lecture in City University, London, but then at the end of the lecture, I would then take another 7, 10 days off and make sure that I took my kids around. And even today, I do it. I'm saying from the time my grandson has been 4 years old and today is 18, every
Hmm.
year, he and I, we go on a holiday together. So the kind of bonding that we have is so great today, because, these are the memories that you collect, and
True.
no amount of money and anything can actually. And I remember a very
Place
interesting
the
incident.
quality.
I must share this with you. Twice I got caught at the immigration. Okay, because when my grandson was 9 years old, I was just coming back with him alone from London, and they caught me and they said, "How can you take a 9 hour flight with a kid like this who's 8 years or 9 years old?" I said, "But he's been traveling with me for the age of 4. I have no problem." And I was in business and he was in economy. So they said, "How can he stay alone for 9 hours? Impossible. Chota bachcha to itne घंटे तक बैठेगा नहीं. Something is
Hmm.
wrong." And then I said, "No, I'm Dr. So and so." I gave them my background. I said, "I teach over here, all that." So then they say, "Oh, we are very sorry, but there are so many cases of divorce and, single
Yeah.
parents fighting for custody. We have to be very
Custard.
careful." So I thought maybe
Okay.
that may be just a one-off thing. And then I went back to when I was going to Canada, and I took my grandson to Alaska. When I was going, same thing happened. They again asked me, they said, "How are you traveling with this guy alone?" And then they
Hmm.
said, "Where's the letter of no objection from the mother and from the father?" Then I
Oh my
realized,
God.
so from that time, every time I travel with my grandson, I take a letter from the mother, and the parents are
Oh,
not divorced, long ago. So I make sure that I take a letter from the mother and take a letter from the father. Now, fortunately, now my grandson is 18 years old. So today I don't have to worry about anything, hopefully. So, but I think so. So you building time for your family is very important, and and having these experiences together is something that they'll always value, grow. Ultimately, everybody grows in their own ways, and even today I'm the eldest in my family. So what I try to do is that with my brothers, their children, their grandchildren, I at least try to have one holiday in a year for the whole family together. I host them for 2 days, 3 days, so that the whole family can get together. And now it's getting more and more difficult because all the kids have got their own life, everybody's dealing with their own way. So if you don't do it now, you can never do it. So I think it's the thought that is important, is the desire that's important. And I think it's the quality time that you spend with your family. It's not the hours, it's the quality time that you spend. I'm saying today what happens, I've seen people, and it happens in my family as well. I'm not saying that I'm above board, but today what happens,
True.
you're at a dining table, people are on their mobile phone. and they're not even conversation. They don't even have dinner together, and they don't even talk to each
They're
other.
just surfing.
So,
Mm.
and they're all, so I kind of make it a rule that, in my house, when you have dinner, then please keep your mobile phone separately. Don't bring it on the table, because that's a quality time that you have with your family. So I think these little
True.
values are very important. And when you have these values and basic values are strong, I think then, and then, also children, then they're not demanding, because then they appreciate that, okay, see, my father has done so much for me. My grandfather has done so
Yes.
much for me. Then they say it's all right. I mean, now he's got his own life. He's doing whatever he can do. It's okay. I think they're more caring, and they're more, uh, I would
I
say,
must
they
say,
don't.
Dr. Batra,
Yeah.
I'm totally floored by the way you described your family bonding and the time you've taken out of your busy schedule to be with your family, to spend time with the family. So every man, I believe, each professional, every individual must take a leaf out of your book and imbibe such kind of values in their lives, so that there is no conflict between professional and personal life, right? So I'm really glad that we spoke about this connection.
Great. I'm so
So
happy. And I
my
think and ultimately, I'll just make one more point in this, connected with this indirectly. Okay. The one point is let him go, and delegation. So what happens in an organization, like, for example, I have kind of retired from my board, and I've about now maybe 7, 8 years ago, you know, people tell me, I mean, it's okay, you build the whole brand, it's your company and all that. How can you just let the power
true.
go? So letting
Mm.
go is not very easy with people.
Letting go is very important. True.
And taking a back seat. Like I'm saying earlier, I used to drive my children, now my children drive me, you know.
True.
And I have to accept it, because that's how it is. I mean, they have to grow, and they have to, they can only grow if they drive themselves.
Dr.
I'm saying drive
Batra, I
themselves.
will intervene over here. This is Rahul Suri's mother, and
Oh,
I
oh,
was
oh,
drawn to this conversation because I heard you speaking so effectively and so very
oh, thank you.
voraciously. So, you've lived a very full life. I mean, every experience of your life that you've kind of etched out today has been maybe par excellence. Now, and you being driven around. So, who do you allow to drive you around, and which driving around is most enjoyable to you? Children vis-a-vis
I think
grandchildren, and which grandchild
always.
you're making.
True.
Thank you, Dr. Batra, for the patience. All right. So
No.
we were at that particular part where you've driven the world around. You've actually been an iconic figure in the world of medicine, and now you're being driven around. So who's driving around do you particularly enjoy?
Well, that's a very interesting question, but it's always, normally it's the firstborn grandson. And that's what they say, that it's the interest is more interesting than the capital. So it's always the grandson who, or the grandchild, whether it's boy or girl, makes no difference at all.
Yeah.
It's always the firstborn grandchild, and it's not just because of anything else, but also because, uh, also the person has the maximum time with you, because your grandchild, the eldest grandchild, is been with you ahead of others,
Mm,
and therefore you get more time. So when there's more time, you get more bonding.
mm,
And also, it's the first experience of having a grandchild, which is such a wonderful experience. So
mm.
you want to just make sure that you make the most of it. So I think just, by just because of logistic, being the longest, I think it's always the eldest.
No, the tie is always between the youngest and the
So
oldest. The youngest
also,
also takes away a lot of your affection because he's kind of come last in the row. However,
yeah.
okay, so I've been listening to this, and you spoke about visibility, and you said that you're more visible in Delhi. So, where exactly are you based? You're based everywhere, but where exactly are you physically based?
So
Rahul's mom is laying the
I so I
I've
live
been focusing.
I'm spiritual. I'm spiritual, and I live in the moment. So I live wherever, and I always joke with people, and I say I live on an aircraft. I live on wherever my bag is. I mean, wherever I am is my home, but I'm based out of Mumbai.
Mhm.
And I also spend some time in Goa, because I have some place over there. I have clinics there as well, but I go to do my. I'm part of a writers' village over there. It's a little village called Aldona, where I live,
Mhm.
and it's called the writers' village because all the foreign writers come between October and February, and they write their next book. And my biography, which I wrote during COVID, I also wrote over there in the last one for over 1.5 years. So it's a very peaceful place. So that's my kind of the kind of peace that I get, just to unwind there, and just to be with myself,
Mhm.
and do all my thoughts and my thinking. comes from there. So I make sure that if possible, if I'm not traveling abroad, I try to spend 7 days to 10 days every month in my home in Goa. So I'm based out of these two places most of the time, but I'm mostly based in Mumbai if I'm actually in Mumbai.
All right. So this is the truth. However, you're quite a quixotic person, an oxymoron, so to say, where you're peaceful and then you race the world. I've also heard one more thing where you spoke about all your discoveries, your medicine, your passion, but there's been this huge component of the business also. So, which was the greater challenge? Two questions. Which was the greater passion? And second, which was the greater challenge? To grow as a businessman par excellence or to find the ultimate cure?
I think both are challenging in their own way, and that's not very easy to put one against the other because every entrepreneurship has a challenge, and especially when you're a first generation entrepreneur. Because like I said, you have to find the way, you have to navigate, you have to get lots of obstacles, so it's not easy. And then scaling again is not easy because also we are bootstrapped. We don't have partners, we don't have investors, we don't have and we are also zero debt company, so we don't borrow money from anybody, so we can sleep well at night. So whatever we do with our own money, and we just put our money back into our business and grow it. That's how it is. We don't take it out for ourselves. And so if it does well, you open 20, 30 branches. If it doesn't do well, you open 2 or 3 branches. It's as simple as that. I always call it the Raj Kapoor model. When one movie did well, he made another movie. If it didn't do well, then for 2, 3 years he just kept quiet. So when you grow through internal accruals, which is what we've been doing, then your pace is automatically adjusted depending on how well or how poorly you do. And you don't have any worry because you're not borrowing money. You're not, you don't owe money to anybody, and you're just enjoying the ride. So that's one part. The other part is that, happiness comes from within, and people always try to seek it from outside. So you can't get it from outside. You can keep trying, but happiness always comes from within. So if you're not a happy person, you can't be a happy doctor. And if you're not a happy person, then you can't be happy to the world. So you can't spread happiness to other people around you. So you've got to be happy yourself if you want to see happiness around you. Otherwise, you'll always see conflict. You'll always see, today we are living in a very toxic world. We're living in a world of conflicts everywhere. There are wars and there are conflicts in families, and, members are fighting with each other. We're getting segregated. Joint families are breaking. So more and more divorces all across. So we are actually living in a very, in a world of conflict, other than living in a world of change. And change also brings about, if there's too much of change, again, you have to deal with it. So it's not easy again. So I think these are all challenges which happen, but the biggest challenge really is how to deal with yourself. And when does that realization come to you that, you are the most important person in this world? And how do you connect yourself to God? And how do you then spread that godliness to people around you? And I think I kind of turned into a Swami last year. I've taken Diksha, and I got another name. I am called Swami Anand Sangeetam because I sing for charity. So,
Oh, wonderful.
and I've been blessed also by the, Swaminarayan sect, the head priest, who's now 91 years old. So he's prayed on this and given me this, which I wear. So I'm saying, just being blessed is very important. I think it gives you peace of mind. And it then allows you to reach out to people in a very nice way because you have nothing in your heart. You don't have any malice for anybody. You just want the world to be a happy place, and you try to spread as much of happiness as you can in whatever you do, in whatever little way you can do. I mean, it's not about money. Happiness doesn't come necessarily with money. Happiness also comes with small things like just a smile, just listening to somebody. I'm saying today we've lost the art of listening. And today I find that people are not even listening. So, today the father doesn't listen to the son doesn't listen to the father. I'm not talking about listening in a way of power, but just being around for somebody who needs you and loves you and cares for you. I think that's important. And I think we've lost that art of listening, and we've lost that art of conversation because we've become more and more, intrusive, more and more secluded, more and more with our mobile phone and, with,
Yes, it is indeed
meta.
ironical that the mobile
Mm.
phones came in for communication, but they've kind of
Yes,
um,
true.
maybe you've answered the question already in this answer that you gave me. In your amazingly packed schedule, I mean,
Mm.
each time you talk, you give me one more ingredient of the schedule. what is it that you do for entertainment? There are these moments when you don't want to do anything and you just want to let go, and you kind of look for that entertainment. So, what is your entertainment?
So my entertainment is life, and I believe in living every moment of it. I don't
What
drink,
gives
I
you
don't smoke,
fun? The fun element. Some
I
people
don't,
like
I for
travel.
everything. I love everything. I love whatever I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I love everything that I'm doing. I'm passionate about my work, and because I have these
You
two P's,
break
which I say,
into a song. You gave me this answer that I sing.
because yes, I do. I do. I
Break
sing
into
for
a
charity.
song.
I sing for charity. I sing for an old age home. I've had 13 concerts. My concert was last week, and my last concert was last week at YB Chawan in a house full auditorium of about 850 people. And I have my own orchestra. And even otherwise, for me, singing is meditation. So every time I come home, I try to sing with my Guruji, and I can try to practice my singing. So for me, it's meditation, and that's my peaceful corner, which I love. I do photography. I've had 55 international exhibitions, including international exhibitions. I do that for a blind
What
school.
is it that you do not do, Dr.
So I
Batra?
travel.
No, what is it
I've
that you
captured
do not do? You explored
whatever
medicine, you've done business, you've done photography, you've done music,
fine arts. Fine
philosophy.
arts. Fine arts keeps you alive. So that's very important. So even in medicine, they say the science of medicine is the art of healing. So art is very, very important. And also what happens is, because we see so much as doctors, we see so much of pain and death and suffering. We need to keep us sensitive. We become insensitive after some time. So to keep our sensitivity alive, you need to do some fine arts. And it's also lonely at the top. So I've seen that all the top people who've been my patients, ultimately I've seen that they always have some hobby which kind of keeps them alive and keeps them going. So I think if you have a passion for something, and then you have a purpose with that passion, like so I keep improving my singing, because I know that if I sing better, I'll get more money for my charity. If I do better photography, I will get more money for blind children who I'm supporting for the last so many years. So that's how it is. So whatever passion I have, and I also believe that all of us have a passion, and all of us are good in something or the other, and we can really have a happier world if only all of us use it for the betterment of society and for the betterment of our people. That's all it needs. It doesn't have to be something very complicated. It doesn't have to be heavy donations. It's like, for example, you're doing a podcast, you're doing a free podcast. It's your contribution to society, because somebody will listen to it somewhere, and that life will change. And you don't know where it's going to reach. You don't know who will get hit by that, and who will kind of start changing lives. And you're actually changing lives with what you're doing. We're doing the same with medicine. We're not just curing people and making them healthy, but we're also changing their lives for the better. So it's very, very important, therefore, that in everybody whoever's got a talent, if they use their talent for the betterment of society. I'm saying, if you're a copywriter, can you do a free copy for society, for a social cause? Can you do an anti-drug campaign, for example? Today so many young people are caught in that. So I'm just giving an example. So everybody can do it. So my talent is singing. I mean, I am passionate about it. I sing old songs. My talent is photography. I've had international exhibitions in Australia. I've been invited by the government. I've shot 16,000 wildflowers for them. The Dubai government, I'm perhaps the only Indian photographer who's had a exhibition in a very large thing in Dubai with the government of Dubai, tourism and culture department. So I've been blessed to have all these opportunities. And as a matter of fact, on Monday in Mumbai, the owner of the Free Press Journal is also hosting one of my photographic exhibitions of South America in his building, and throwing a party for my friends to celebrate it. So it's like that. So actually you have I mean, the world just takes over. That's all. When you do something good, uh, the world takes over and just takes you wherever you want to be.
I mean, this is true philanthropic spirit in the real sense of the word. I mean, and it's so much. You've got that perfect rounded personality, the entrepreneur and the philanthropist.
So thank you for your time, and thank you.
Yeah,
and
thank you so much
and
for
and, and,
being
and
here.
thank
Yeah,
you, Sonika, as well. I think she's been a wonderful host.
I know she's
and
asked you everything,
and
and
may, and maybe I will end with singing two lines for Rahul, especially.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming, and I am amazed that you have accepted my invitation, and I am your non-coming living member. So I thought that one day I will make you interesting. Always,
Certainly, I look forward to it.
always try to call it my
And
organization.
Thank you.
Happy
I
to
look
be
forward to
here,
it.
Kumar.
And I will end with two lines from Kishore Kumar's old song for you,
Hmm.
which is my vision for the world. So I'll sing two lines for you and for your listeners so that you can, keep that in mind. And maybe that's a memory of this podcast that we've had.
Yeah.
आ चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूं एक ऐसे गगन के तले जहां गम भी न हो आंसू भी न हो बस प्यार ही प्यार पले एक ऐसे गगन के तले एक ऐसे गगन के तले एक ऐसे गगन के तले. So I hope, Rahul, that you find a lot of peace and happiness in your life. God bless. Take care. Jai Hind. Thank you.
One last thing. The world needs more Dr. Mukesh Batras. And then we will
God is.
actually all go to that Nile Gagan Ketale. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.